Okay, so in the second part we're going to talk about render passes. So what are render passes? Render passes are renderings that allow you to create from one rendering all kinds of different images. The images we see over here are, for example, a normal map, a specular map, the lighting, direction, glass, all those kind of things. So those can be rendered just within one go, so you don't have to re-render things over and over again. So that's a big advantage. Now, what is really important, it's also linked to the shader, which I'm going to talk about a little bit deeper later on. So let's make sure that we can use this. Now, like I said, this is something which is being related to the shader. So first of all, where can we find passes? Click over here, render settings, go to passes. Here you find how to add passes. So I'm going to leave this for now, and now we're going to quickly add some of those materials. Now you can find those materials if you look closely over here to mental ray materials. It doesn't work over here with Maya materials. It needs to be written in the shader, and Maya doesn't support those things for mental ray. So if you look over here, we see like all kinds of mental ray shaders. And also in mental ray, not all shaders are suited to do something like this. So it's always very important to check whether the shader is ready to render out in passes. So we can see it over here. The car paint using passes, the metallic paint using passes, or the Maya material X passes, which is the most common shader to be using. So select this one, and let's create 8 of those, and I'll complete this while I'll speed up the video. Okay, so now all those materials have been added, and so right now what we can do is we can do an experiment rendering in passes. So let's go over here and let's add some of those passes. So a few useful ones which we can examine immediately is let's see, what do we find over here? We have like the diffuse, could be useful. We're going to use the material normal in camera space. We can use the material normal in world space. Oh no, not the material, sorry. Let's go to camera and object normal, because the material, therefore you need to have bump maps on the surfaces, else it won't render. We have also a reflection that we can use. So let's keep it at those for now. So create and close, and we see right over here we have like the scene passes. Now at this moment it's not going to be used. What's really important is also that it's going to be connected to your rendering layer. Right now, if you go over here to your channel layer editor and go to the tab render, you will find you have like one master layer, which is the main layer to be using. Okay, so to this master layer we're going to connect right now the render passes. So here with this symbol you can connect them over here. Now you can select them right over here, and you can also disconnect them again. So that's up to you how you want to organize those. So now we have 4 of them connected. So let's close this again, because everything is being set properly right now, and let's make a first new render again. So let's do that over here, batch render. So as you can see, the rendering didn't change that much. The reason why it's just a little bit slower is also because there's reflection being involved right now, but for the rest it went actually pretty fast. Now if we go back to composite and we're gonna remove this color correction, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna load this new image. Now click over here on the symbol and see, before it was 5 megabytes, now it has grown to 32 megabytes. So what has changed exactly? And we have like all these layers being rendered. And like I said, they're inside, but how to access those? Now if you just open it by default like that, you're gonna have like this new image, but where are all the layers? We don't see anything over here, so that's not really exactly what we had in mind. So let's see, what else can we do? Well, the thing you can do as well is to import it, but instead of, and here we see still what the old size was. So let's go over here. Now you see the update. If you imported it while right clicking over here, then you can see that you can import differently. You can import all channels. So once you do that, it takes a little longer to load. And you also see we have like a different type of node. So this is like gray outlines. This has like this green outline. So it means it is a group. It's a grouping of like several nodes. And if you see right over here, we have like one output. Over here we have like multiple of these outputs. So how can you examine what's going on? Well, first of all, like I said, this is a group, so it contains like multiple nodes, and you can enter it by double clicking it. So double click it and you can go inside. Now by default the organization is not that well, so you can reorganize this by pressing, for example, right mouse button click, and you see over here layout selected, or you can just press L. So now they have their proper layout, and I change the viewport over here by pressing 6, so I can see each one of those layers, as you can clearly see. So now you have control over each one of those separately, just in one go, and all stored within one image. So that's actually quite convenient. Now if you want to go out of this node back again, you just have to double click in empty space. Double click over here and you get back. Now it might be that you like this grouping system, it might be that you don't like it. Well, if you don't like it, you can always explode view by either right clicking over here, and you can ungroup, as you see over here, and then you see how you do it. So it's simply by pressing G. It's also something you could do as well. Now let's examine a few of these things. We have over here the diffuse layer, so you can start changing the colors of the diffuse if you want to. You can start changing over here the normals. Remember last time we were talking about having like the ability to have this fall off. Now if I'm going to show this over here, and you might remember the difference between this one and in the previous video. So if I middle mouse button click, I go to my channel up, and I'm going to rewire the whole thing so that I take, for example, the green, which is the upper direction. No, I'm gonna do this. Is this normal world? I'm gonna take this from the normal world, not the normal camera. So if I'm gonna take the green version, we see over here this fall off. Now over here it's a little bit different than what we had the previous time, because the previous time we had like a fall off going from the top completely towards the bottom. Now where is all this information? Because over here we see like one white going to black over here, and all the rest seems to be black. Now if you press Alt P, you get the color picker of this program, and just by pressing you'll see over here indeed these values go from 1 down to black, but we also have like negative values over here. So those colors are still stored, but they're only negative. So that's how it's really storing the direction vector in the image. So you can play in all kind of ways with it. If you go to the color correction and you go to color correction history, or histograms. Oh, I don't want to connect it over here, and I'm used to using Houdini while shaking the whole thing. So if you go up, that's the wrong one. If you take the bottom one and move this one to a half, then we have exactly the same type of rendering we had before. As you can see, it goes from white. Let me do the color picking again. It goes from white all the way down to, can't see it over here, but all the way down to black eventually. So that's how you can play with these values. Now you will also recognize it much more if I directly connect it over here. This is the typical colors that you see for a normal map, so that you can store everything in the positive values. Okay, so let me delete this. And so this shows you a little bit how to create those render layers. So let's see, how can we create those render layers as well in a different way? Well, I was adding those render layers first of all right over here in the render settings. Now you can also create them right over here. If you right mouse button click, you can create here render passes. So you can add a render pass just right here as well. So this might be a little bit more convenient. So let's say if we have I'm going to add, let's say, a custom color, because this is also quite important to know, a custom color. So if you check now right over here, we see the custom color immediately has been added as well. Now if you double click each one of these, you also see that each one of those render passes has their own attributes. So you can set, for example, some values. For example, you can set it to 16-bit float for the diffuse, or if you want to, you can change it into 32-bit float, depending on the quality that you need. The custom color over here is also something we can use with a lot of different colors. Now, why a custom color? Now let's have a look over here at the reflection. If we go and perhaps let me change the reflection of something which is quite visible. Let's take that from the big sphere over here and of the chalice. So suppose we have a very reflective surface. Reflectivity is set to 1 completely, and we're gonna set the BRDF, we're gonna set this to 2, so we have like some more fall off, and we set this part to 0 and this part to 1. So we have like this gradual fall off. In the middle there's not a lot of reflection, towards the edges there's a lot of reflection. Let's do the same for the chalice as well. I think it might be useful to see it over here again. So again, set this to 2, 0 and the reflectivity to 1. And let's re-render the whole thing. Batch render. Rendering is done. Now if I go over here and I check my reflection, and let's reload the whole thing, you see over here this chalice is like clearly reflecting a little bit brighter right now, so it's being affected actually by the intensity. And also what we see is that these parts, they don't reflect anything at all almost. So it's just like very vague. And actually I do want to have control over this reflection, basically in my post controls. So we have like over here the normal camera. If we go over here and I'll take, for example, the blue, we see we have this fall off. And so we could use this fall off actually to control the amount of reflectivity completely in post. But the problem is over here, it already has done that. We don't have like a pure layer. So that's why actually writing a custom layer or a custom pass is so important. So if I go back over here, we see this custom color. Okay, so what we want to do actually is to make sure that this big sphere in this chalice is going to become visible, and that we don't have like this annoying fall off on the reflectivity. Now if we take over here these nodes, and we're going to make sure they are opened completely. Well, I need to zoom in a little bit and press this sign, you can open them. You see over here there are like lots and lots of channels. We see over here, for example, the reflection level, the reflection raw, and the reflection result. Now by default, if you go to this render passes and if you take reflection, it's going to take you the reflection result, which is the result together with the fall off towards the edges. Now like I said, in compositing that's not really useful. What we want to have is to have like the pure reflection over here. So let's try and do this. So we need to create over here, next to the custom color, we need to create also a write to color node. And in this write to color buffer, you can say just over here which color has to be written into what custom pass. So we go over here, go to the reflection raw, select the color over here, and if you double click over here on this write to color buffer, you can select over here which custom pass to use. So go to custom color. So next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna do that again. Ctrl C, Ctrl V, up. That was not a good idea. Let me select these nodes again. Let's see, there's inputs. So here we have again exactly the ones that we need. And you see also right now that I've already made a connection to the custom color output or render pass. So we have to do that also for the big sphere. So again, you have to create a write to color. Make sure this is open, and this one as well. And also over here we're gonna take like the reflection raw and gonna connect it to the color. Make sure that the write to color buffer over here is set to custom color, and this one is also set to custom color. We've pasted custom color. Well, that's a layer that I accidentally must have pasted, so let's make sure that we can remove it. Pasted custom color. Let's just remove this one. Up. Like that, it's gone. So everything is set right. So now if we render that frame again, done. Let's go over here to the input. Let's see over here that we can import, Control I, import the whole thing, the new home assignment, and make sure that you import all layers. Just explode this view, and we'll have to wait a little bit, but you will see the difference between the custom and the other one. So like this you had also the control to say what should be written into the custom color and how. But clearly you see the difference right now between both of these. And so since we have the fall off right over here, again playing around a little bit with the things we have, for example color correction, invert the whole thing, bring it together with the mount operations, and if you think what operation to use, you should find that it's simply multiplying, because we want it darker into the center. But the difference right now is that you do have like manual control over this. So if you go to the color correction, and we're going to do the color correction basics right over here, then you can clearly control the fall off. So let me put this back to 7, color correction basics, and what you can do is change, for example, the gamma. If you want to have like more edge fall off or less edge fall off, you can also have like an offset. If you want to have like a bit of reflection in the center and reduce the gain a little bit, if you want to have less reflection in general. And as you can see, it also takes into account, because of the floating point depth, the intensity of those values. So it's extremely flexible, and you can really fine-tune everything you want over here with these color values. So that's much faster than just re-rendering the whole thing over and over again. Okay, so this concludes creating render passes, and so the next thing that we're going to see is render layers.